While he was walking through a forest with his half-blind dog, this man had an emergency and left his loyal companion among the thick vegetation. But a few days later, something incredible happened. One serene morning, Johnson embarked on his regular stroll through the woods surrounding his country house. Alongside him was Buddy, his faithful half-blind dog, a companion in every step of his life. As they ambled through the trees, Johnson basked in the tranquility, relishing the gentle caress of the morning breeze. Little did he know that his day was about to be abruptly interrupted. A few minutes into the serene forest journey, Johnson's cell phone pierced the tranquility with its shrill ring. Glancing at the screen, he noted his daughter Mandy's name flashing. Answering, he was met with Mandy's frantic voice, a blend of worry and tears carried through the static-riddled connection. The bad cell reception distorted her words, leaving Johnson with a sinking feeling. Suddenly, the line went dead, and a disconcerting silence took its place. In response to the unsettling call, Johnson directed Buddy to stay put as he ventured deeper into the woods in search for a better cell connection. His boots crunched on the fallen leaves, each step echoing the worry that now consumed him. Amidst the rustling leaves and distant bird calls, he finally found a spot with a slightly improved signal. Quickly dialing back, he re-established contact with Mandy. His daughter's crying voice spilled through the phone as she explained the distressing situation. Emily, Johnson's 6-year-old granddaughter, had been playing outside and seemingly encountered an allergen. Her cries and complaints had led Mandy to a heartbreaking scene. Emily's body covered in welts as red as a tomato and struggling to breathe. The weight of the news hung heavy in the air. Johnson's heart sank and he felt a surge of helplessness. Despite the miles that separated them, the urgency in Mandy's voice exceeded the limits of the phone call. She had been trying to soothe Emily's persistent itching, but was forced to watch with growing concern as the red welt spread across her daughter's skin. The distress in the little girl's cries heightened Mandy's worry, pushing her to reach out for help. With trembling hands, she had dialed her father's number, her voice breaking as she conveyed the urgency of the situation. Johnson's heart broke for both his daughter and granddaughter. They needed him, and he couldn't let them down. Without a moment's hesitation, he raced home, moving with a determination that belied his years. The urgency of the situation overrode the physical toll it took on his elderly body. Upon reaching home, he wasted no time. The car engine roared to life as he drove Mandy and the ailing Emily to the hospital. The roads blurred in his peripheral vision as he navigated the familiar route, the gravity of the situation etched on his weathered face. Arriving at the hospital, the medical staff recognized the urgency of Emily's condition. They swiftly took charge, responding with efficiency honed through years of practice. Within an hour of their arrival, Emily's condition stabilized. The doctors had alleviated the immediate threat to the little girl's health. The collective relief in the room was discernible as Emily, exhausted from the ordeal, drifted into a peaceful slumber. Johnson and Mandy, sharing a silent moment of gratitude, watched over the little girl as she slept. The worry lines on their faces began to soften, replaced by the reassuring calm that filled the hospital room. Professionals. A few hours later, as Emily stirred awake, the doctors deemed her fit for discharge. The trio, bundled together, embarked on the journey back home. The atmosphere was now very different from the previous journey. Johnson and Mandy even attempted some jokes, and Emily's drowsy gaze and the faint traces of the earlier ordeal on her skin were the only reminders of the day's events. Throughout the journey home, however, Johnson couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that lingered in the recesses of his mind. The relief of Emily's recovery coexisted with an unexplainable unease, leaving him with a sense of disquiet. Somehow, despite having helped mother and daughter get to the hospital in time, he felt like he hadn't done everything he was supposed to do that day. Something eluded him, but what? As they entered the quiet neighborhood, the streetlights cast a warm glow, a stark contrast to the clinical brightness of the hospital. Yet, Johnson's unease persisted, casting a shadow over the familiar surroundings. As soon as they reached home, fatigue settled in, and the events of the day took a toll on all three. Johnson, worn from the emotional roller coaster and the physical strain of racing against time, went straight to bed. The familiar comfort of his room, however, did little to ease the restlessness that lingered within him. He felt like he had forgotten something important, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. As Johnson stirred from his evening slumber, his mind was suddenly overtaken by a nagging thought. Buddy! Panic tightened his chest as the realization dawned on him. He had left his loyal furry friend behind in the woods. Without a moment's hesitation, the elderly man sprang from his bed, the urgency of the situation propelling him into action. The floor creaked beneath his hurried footsteps as he rushed out of the house, the cold night air slapping against his face. The woods, once a haven of solace, now loomed before him with an air of foreboding. The moonlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting eerie shadows that danced along the forest floor. As Johnson ventured deeper, a knot tightened in his stomach, his anxious steps echoing in the silence. If a grown man like him was so scared, he didn't even want to imagine what his poor blind dog had gone through that evening. Nearing the spot where he had left Buddy, his heart raced with a mix of hope and dread. What if something sinister had befallen his loyal companion? The darkness seemed to swallow his surroundings, heightening the sense of uncertainty that clung to the night. Thoughts of Buddy, half blind and vulnerable, amplified his fears. A ray of hope flickered as he reached the designated spot, yet reality was cruel. Buddy was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as Johnson called out his name repeatedly, the echoes fading into the night, unanswered. The ominous silence that followed seemed to mock his desperate attempts to locate his furry friend. The man continued his futile search, a silent prayer escaping his lips. What if Buddy, in his loyalty, had tried to find Johnson and ended up lost in the labyrinth of shadows? With each passing moment, darkness descended upon the woods, casting an impenetrable veil over the landscape. Johnson now faced a dilemma: risk getting trapped in the encroaching night or retreat without his companion. The weight of the decision hung heavy, his mind racing through the possible scenarios awaiting Buddy in the wilderness. As desperation seized him, Johnson's thoughts spiraled into a whirlwind of worst-case scenarios. He berated himself for not bringing a flashlight as the realization dawned that he had to leave the forest for his own safety. Frustration and exhaustion settled in, casting a heavy shadow on Johnson's shoulders. The mere idea of leaving Buddy behind again, alone and vulnerable, intensified the torment that gripped his heart. Reluctantly retracing his steps, the man cast desperate glances into the impenetrable darkness, a silent plea for the dog to emerge from the shadows. But Buddy was nowhere to be found. Back at the edge of the woods, Johnson stood at the threshold, a mix of defeat and determination etched on his weary face. With a heavy heart, he turned away, leaving the woods behind, but carrying the weight of uncertainty on his shoulders. Upon entering the house, the void left by Buddy's absence seemed to echo through the rooms. Johnson sank into a chair, the weariness of the day settling over him like a heavy shroud. The night that followed was a restless one for Johnson, a sleepless journey through the corridors of worry. The mere idea of his aging, half-blind friend navigating the harsh environment stirred a deep-seated anxiety in his mind. Buddy was a retired military dog with a lifetime of service etched in the lines on his furry face, and more than a pet to Johnson. He was a veteran himself and had found in his furry companion a reassuring presence. He reminisced about the day he decided to adopt a dog, an ordinary visit to the shelter that unfolded into a life-changing encounter. Among the myriad of hopeful eyes peering from the kennels, Buddy had caught the veteran's attention. Something about the half-blind canine struck a chord deep within him, a connection that surpassed the visible scars of trauma. When he found out that the dog was partially disabled due to the trauma in his service days, the retired soldier decided he would provide a home for this loyal companion. Being a retired military dog, home was not without its challenges. In the initial days, Buddy remained withdrawn, haunted by memories of service and hardship. Interacting with his new owner proved a struggle for him. However, Johnson approached the situation with unwavering patience, understanding that trust needed time to blossom. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, a transformation unfolded. Johnson and Buddy, once strangers sharing a roof, gradually became inseparable. The retired soldier's patience bore fruit as he witnessed the gradual unveiling of Buddy's playful side. The timid canine, burdened by past traumas, soon found solace and joy in the warmth of his new home. Yet, as Johnson now lay restless in the quiet of the night, the memories of their shared moments only intensified the worry that gripped him. His mind, fueled by the love and concern for Buddy, painted vivid scenarios of the half-blind dog navigating the darkness of the woods. The mere thought of Buddy facing an unfamiliar terrain with limited vision was a source of anguish that lingered through the stillness of the night. At the crack of dawn the next morning, Johnson once again went to the woods in search of Buddy. He searched and searched, but to no avail. When it was evening, the man had no other choice than to go home. For 5 long days, Johnson persistently ventured into the woods at dawn, his heart heavy with worry for Buddy. The mornings turned into afternoons, and the afternoons into evenings, as he tirelessly searched the depths of the forest, calling out Buddy's name. Despite his unwavering determination, each day ended in disappointment as the dog remained elusive, leaving him heartbroken. On the evening of the 5th day, fatigue weighed heavily on Johnson's shoulders. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to mirror the lengthening despair in his heart. With a heavy sigh, he trudged back home, the empty-handed journey etched across his weary face. But as the tired man returned home, a peculiar sight awaited him on the porch. A strange visitor, unexpected and oddly out of place, greeted him with a wagging tail and half-blind eyes. It took a moment for the man to register what he was seeing. Buddy, his beloved canine companion, standing on the porch as if he had never left. Johnson's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and joy reflecting in them as he rushed forward to embrace Buddy. The dog's tail wagged furiously with a happiness that mirrored Johnson's own emotions. It turned out that Buddy, with his military past, had a unique ability to find his way home. The well-honed instincts acquired during his service days had guided him back to his place of safety and love. His half-blind eyes, which had navigated through challenging terrains in the past, now sparkled with familiarity as he recognized Johnson. It had taken him almost a week to find his way back home, but he had done it, and his owner couldn't be prouder. The bond that had weathered the storm of uncertainty now stood unbroken. Johnson, overwhelmed by the unexpected reunion, knelt beside Buddy and gently caressed the furry friend he had feared lost. In the simplicity of their shared joy, Johnson marveled at Buddy's uncanny ability to find home despite the odds. The dog, who had once kept to himself and struggled to connect, now stood as a living testament to loyalty and the enduring power of love. What a remarkable story! Buddy truly defied everyone's expectations of him. Did you think he was going to make it back home? Share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Stay tuned for more extraordinary stories.